The most common response I get when it comes to using an entry-level DJ controller in a professional setting is,
the sound quality isn't as good as pro gear.
now while it's technically true that they don't have real-time sample interpolation upscaling to 96 kilohertz like the CDJ3000, or the studio quality flat frequency response and signal to noise ratio of the DJM V10 mixer, it actually might surprise you how an entry-level controller can sound on a big setup. Sound quality can be divided in the following characteristics, so let's identify them. Number one, frequency response. How true to the original signal can the digital to analog converters create across the audible spectrum? Number two, signal strength. How loud the outputs of a device can go. Number three, signal to noise ratio. How low is the noise floor where you start to pick up noise in a signal? Number four, headroom. How much can you push it before you start clipping? So let's quickly draw a graph. This is gain, this is frequency. This is 20 hertz. This is 20 kilohertz. And we'll put 18K right here as well. Entry-level controllers will generally be listed with a frequency range of 20 to 20 kilohertz. And that's about what's entirely audible to the human ear, 20 to 20K. It might vary person to person, and how well you hear in these upper frequencies might be affected by how good your hearing is. Now, the amount of gain doesn't really matter in this case. We're just going to draw a line by what the frequency response is on each device. So with high-end gear, the line within the audible range remains consistent. So green's going to be high-end audio gear. What it does below 20 doesn't really matter because we can't hear it, and usually a sound engineer rolls this off anyway. What happens above 20, that's what dogs can hear. And from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, it's a consistent, flat, or as flat as possible frequency response. That means the frequency response covers the audible frequency range of human hearing and sometimes even goes beyond. I know that there are some devices that will claim they can do 25K and stuff. Any fluctuations, any inconsistencies, say maybe you have just a little bit of a dip that goes up like this and maybe one that goes like this, so spike, a dip. Any fluctuations or spikes that happen would be considered changes to the frequency response. Another word for change is distortion. But let's just say our theoretical high-end gear right here has a perfect frequency response from 20 to 20K. In entry-level gear, distortion can be rated from less than 0.005% to as low as 0.004%. which isn't really a lot. In most cases, people can't really tell that difference. Now, while an entry-level controller does cover the frequency range of human hearing, which is 20 to 20K, there is an interesting thing that happens to the frequency response. So I want to draw a line from 20 to 18K. At the upper frequencies, an entry-level controller's DAC tends to start to roll off above 17 or 18 kilohertz. So it just kind of has this soft roll off. You still hear it from 20 to 20K, but in the upper frequencies, it starts to teeter off. It doesn't have the frequency response and clarity that high-end gear has, which is consistent in the entire band of the human hearing. Because this roll-off is within the range of human hearing, the highest of the highest frequencies will be filtered off. And you can kind of hear that when comparing high-end gear with entry-level gear. Keep in mind, this is a very simplified illustration of what generally happens. It's a lot more complex than that. But this is just to give you kind of an idea of what generally is going on. So does that mean that you're going to have poor treble response with your entry-level DJ controllers? Well, not quite. Let's take a standard 15-inch powered speaker. When you look up their frequency response, note I didn't say frequency range, you'll find them to say 55 hertz to 18 kilohertz. And if you add a subwoofer, you might be able to get it as low as 40 or 35 hertz, which is above 20. So in a powered speaker setup, you would probably get a roll-off here and a roll-off here. This doesn't mean that the speakers will sound terrible. It simply means that the frequencies roll off towards the highest and the lowest end of the spectrum. And that's not taking acoustics into play. This is just what the speaker is pumping out before it's affected by the room. Believe it or not, most of your audio devices, from your car stereo to your AirPods, pretty much behave this way. And for the most part, most of your pro audio speakers aren't much different. Unless you're listening through high-end studio monitors or super high-end speakers like Pioneer Pro Audio's XY series, the speakers you're using don't usually highlight those upper frequencies that entry-level controllers tend to be missing anyways. Side note, check out Pioneer Pro Audio's Express series speakers if you ever wanted to know what it's like to have powered loudspeakers with studio monitor-like accuracy, thanks to the DSP on it. Frequency response is not something we can really control or change from the controller. But it's not as big of a deal because most times the things that cause poor sound quality were from bad choices made by the user. What can we control then to get the best sound quality out of entry-level controllers? Here are 5 tips to ensure you get the best possible sound quality. Tip number 1, limit the cable length and use shielded cables when possible from the unbalanced RCA output, since that's what's on an entry-level controller. That means no more than 6 to 10 feet. And this helps maximize the signal-to-noise ratio, because the longer the cable, especially an unbalanced cable, and if it's moderately or not shielded, it will pick up interference from radio signals. Because it's an unbalanced signal from the RCA output, interference noise will be introduced the longer the cable gets. In fact, your signal-to-noise ratio progressively gets worse the longer the cable goes. Check out my series about audio cables for beginners if you want to know more info. Number 2, reinforce the weak signal strength. Entry-level controllers, not because it's RCA, but just because of the amount of power it can generate for the output, because it's only USB powered, have a relatively weak signal output. This means many times you can't really go direct to an amplifier or a powered speaker unless there's a gain boost control on those devices. You can reinforce this weak signal by plugging it into an active direct box, DJ mixer, or PA mixer where you can boost the gain. You can keep the cable length to that device short and then have balanced signal outputs from that device to the speakers or to the amplifiers, and you can have longer cable lengths from there. Check out my video about connecting your entry-level controller to speakers right here. Number 3, don't play into the red. Because of the lack of headroom, you do not want to be close to clipping your entry-level controller. You want to keep the gains down moderately. Entry-level DJ gear isn't as forgiving about clipping because of the lack of headroom. That's caused by the lower sample rate, and also it doesn't have the same 64-bit dithering as high-end gear has. The DJM V10 and the DJM S11 are nearly impossible to cause distortion unless you crank the gain at the amplifier or mixer level. If you try to play into the red, you'll either hit the limiter, which doesn't sound good on entry-level gear, or in some cases cause the controller to have dropouts because you're on the edge of what you're pushing as far as power goes for the output. Don't want to name any names, but there is a DJ software out there whose limiter makes the overall signal lose bass and treble, and it just sounds terrible. And it doesn't matter what kind of gear you're using when you're hitting the limiter on this one particular DJ software. Yeah. Keep your levels under control. If you need more volume, make sure to increase the gain on the device that you're using on number 2. And if you found this video so far to be useful to you, please click that like button and also that subscribe button with that little bell icon. Number 4, use high quality MP3 files. Your MP3 files should have a bitrate of 320 kilobits per second. If you have older files, make sure they're not below 192 kbps. MP3s are compressed audio files that get rid of upper and lower frequency data to help decrease the file size. Once you start getting below 192 kilobits per second, you'll start noticing it affects the audible quality of the audio, especially the bass frequencies. The lower the number, the narrower the MP3 actually keeps. If you're ripping music from a CD, set the MP3 compression to 320. I'm not of the opinion to say lossless files are necessary for an entry-level controller. In fact, I think it's a bit overkill and a huge penalty on your storage for no perceivable quality gain. But if you want to deep dive in the discussion whether DJs should use lossless music files, drop a comment down below. Number 5. Stop ripping music from YouTube and SoundCloud or whatever else. More than half the time when an entry-level controller gets a bad rep for sound quality, it's because someone downloaded ripped songs from YouTube. Now I get it, maybe there might be a rare gem that is completely unavailable somewhere else. In that case, I understand, but I don't condone it because it's highly illegal. But if your habit for all your music is to jump onto a sketchy YouTube to MP3 downloader site, your sound quality is going to suffer. The reason is because YouTube itself compresses the audio at the point of upload, and what happens is that your frequency response gets even smaller. You can actually see in a spectrum analysis that YouTube rips have missing audio above 15 or 16K. And you'll notice on a big sound system, your bass doesn't hit as deep. And here's the thing, even if your downloader site renders it at a good MP3 bitrate, those frequencies you need will still be missing because they were compressed at the time of upload. You can't recover missing frequencies simply by rendering to a higher bitrate if they were already missing in the first place. At least not without advanced interpolation, but that's a discussion for another time. Audio from YouTube is not meant for a big system. It's compressed in a manner that is just good enough for smartphones, tablets, headphones, and home speakers. And the same goes for Spotify and other streaming services. I'm mentioning this because we know there's this certain handful of mobile wedding DJs out there that completely play music all night from Spotify. No mixing, no nothing, just click and play. And we've all been to a wedding and know how their sound quality sounds. If you find something on YouTube that you like, find where you can buy that song. And if it's a bootleg remix, ask the poster if you can download it from them or if they can send it over. Many times artists are more than willing to share their remixes or edits. If a track you like is on SoundCloud, they actually have a service you can stream directly to your DJ software. And if it seems really expensive to buy every single individual song, there are music download pools for DJs where you can get up to an unlimited download limit of music for a subscription fee. In fact, a great place you can find this at is at Direct Music Service. DMS is an online database where DJs can get their music from. There's thousands of unique edits, remixes, and originals that you can choose from of your favorite tracks that you can use to rock your next dance floor. They also have an app that you can use on your mobile device where you can browse their database and then save songs so that it appears on your Dropbox when you get home. I'm going to leave you 2 discount links down below in the pinned comment if you want to subscribe. Go to directmusicservice.com today to sign up. If you want to know more about high quality powered speakers, check out my review of the Express 15 from Pioneer Pro Audio right here. And if you want to know more about audio cables, check out this playlist I'm going to leave right here. And if you want to know more about how to plug your entry-level controller to a large system or speakers, check out this video down there. All right, really appreciate you for watching. Thanks, take care, stay healthy. The force is with you always.